Hey, Chris, now that you've identified yourself as the one of these well thought out responses, what I'd like to do is maybe as we go through the questions that you found pertinent to have these responses addressed, if you could just sort of highlight your stuff, I want to make sure I capture some of it too.
Yeah, and I can. I probably have the document that I pulled because that I pulled this from because I wrote it all out because the survey I had to do in two pieces. So there's actually, because of the way that it worked, there's actually two different respondents that are me, but I skipped all the first questions and then went to the second half directly to fill out the other half.
Okay.
So it's all, I mean, there's only one response from me, but it looks like two respondents because I didn't answer the first half. So I can point out, or I can go through it and highlight it for you or whatever. Would you like me to send you something directly?
Well, we've already got the written stuff captured in the survey itself, so I know we've got it. Just if you think there's something of particular interest you wanted to highlight, let's make sure we do that.
Okay. It was mainly to brainstorm ideas and generate a lot of thought about this, about these topics. So it was primarily a brainstorming idea, and to give you and your team some deep thought and deep ideas and innovations. This is my area.
Cool. Okay.
And happy to discuss any points further with you or your team. If there's like, oh yeah, we want to figure out how to do this, I can, go deeper.
Super. All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming to today's virtual meeting. We are picking up where we left off on the second community survey. Also, just as a check, because I'm not really sure who I've sent out. Oh, yes, we did. You guys got it already because Elliot totally put it into a Google Doc so that the whole group can work on it. Super duper. Okay. Excellent.
Actually, I also went further, and because when I looked at the Google Doc, I thought, gee, I could fill out my own ACKs, et cetera, but I'd like to see what everybody else is doing in commenting. So I put it into a spreadsheet, and everybody's got a column. I know a couple of people have started to add their responses as well. I also saw stuff that Mike Shaver has sent in already to everybody, and I'm happy to port those over into the spreadsheet.
That's awesome.
Oh, if you copy and paste those over to the spreadsheet, that's really cool. Because, your comments really help me also think about some of these things. So it's a good collaborative effort. Thank you, Elliot.
Thank you. Also, before we get, I'd like to have a couple of introductions from Andrew and Shauna, just so because I'm not familiar.
Solid. Excuse me. Okay, good. So before we jump in, let's do let's do introductions, and we'll go forward from there. Mireya Turner, Community Development Director, and now becoming somewhat of a well-informed person on all the different planning areas in Lake County. It's actually really cool. Go ahead, Ruby.
Ruby Mintz, Office Assistant. I'm here to take the minutes.
Excellent. We've got a reading notes. Go ahead, Darlene.
Yeah, Darlene Warner. I am a member of the Cobb Area Council and retired business and legal executive.
Neat. Chris.
Hi there. I'm Chris Nettles. I'm the treasurer for the Cobb Area Council, and I'm the Cobb Area Council liaison to this LAPAC. I'm also professionally, I wear a few hats, but my primary professional identity associated with this kind of work is I'm a community psychologist, which means I don't do individual work. I'm much more interested in interventions for mental health and well-being that are at a community level. So this is my this sort of work jazzes me.
Awesome. Elliot.
I am Elliot Hurwitz. I'm the founding chair of the Cobb Area Council. I'm currently no longer on the council, but I am the chair of the Forest Stewardship Committee, and I'm the director of the local nonprofit Seagull Springs Community Redevelopment Association, and helped put together this Cobb strategy that the council adopted in 2022.
Super. Robert.
Hi, I'm Robert Thomas, a local resident here on Cobb since 2011, a local business owner, and father of two.
Shauna, go ahead. This is on hold. I don't know what that means, but Shauna, we'll come back to you in a second. Go ahead, Andrew.
Sure. I can. Shauna's my wife. We're just separate, in separate locations. But we're both residents of Cobb, have been for 5+ years, and are, I just guess, slowly getting more active and really more informed on community initiatives, and some of the kind of things that are going on to move the community, move the area upward and forward. And so, joining the call just really more is to learn a bit more and hear from you all.
Awesome. Your time.
And my video might be off just because in the middle of a few things, but I'm here.
Thank you. And Pamela. May have stepped away from her computer. Pamela is one of our AmeriCorps support team members, the CERT team. And so she's also been helping with taking notes. So we've got a really good support structure that I'm happy to sort of highlight today before we get started, just because I would be a crying, blubbering mess without them. So
Pamela lives in Cobb too, doesn't she?
I think she said that the last time, huh?
Yeah.
The last meeting. It looks like she's got internet issues right now because she keeps popping in and out. So.
Okay. Yeah. I've talked to her. Yeah. So she lives over on Bottle Rock.
It's been really fun getting to know these ladies from AmeriCorps, because they've been helping us with the first survey, the second survey. They've been promoting the website out in the community. They've been doing a lot of really helpful stuff to help get the public involved and interacting. All right. We're going to start with question 19, because I think that's where we left off. Let's see. Protecting open spaces was the last thing that I had as a section. So, so we probably already did that one. The next one then is, good, I don't have any notes on this one. Question number 20, and let me know if you want me to pull it up and share screen. Question number 20, how should the county amplify the area's Indigenous history, support Indigenous traditions, and collaborate with Indigenous communities?
Would you put that up on the screen?
I would be happy to. Let's go find it. The County 2015. Pam, you are not unmuted. We just noticed that you're here and gone and here and gone. So I just went ahead and told everybody who you are, and I signed you up for stuff.
I am so sorry.
You're fine. I think sketchy internet, it's a theme in Lake County. It's okay.
Yeah, we had a team building thing over here in Highland Springs, so that's why. My bad.
No problem. All right, sharing. Let me get us to the right spot. Okay. So you'll see before you then the multiple choice responses for question number 20. These look about the same as far as levels of responses for across the lake. So I want to hear sort of any details or ideas that you might have regarding establishing and maintaining collaborative relationships and respecting and preserving tribal cultural resources. And I'm going to go close my door. So go ahead and get started. Elliot, Go right ahead. And thank you for raising your hand. Usually Chris starts us off with that housekeeping note of raise your hand so we can figure out what order to speak in. So good job. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I think just to explore this a little bit, I know that the particularly with the two tribes, tribal nations that are have traditional ancestral territories in Cobb, which is the Big Valley Band and the Middletown Rancheria. There are always challenges in terms of their own capacity to participate in anything really beyond what their own internal requirements are. And I'd like to somehow have policies that will be able to support their participation, either through cooperative funding of positions or specific ways to allow them to participate actively in our area. And I also would like to find, so that's one thing. I also would like to find some way within our local area plan to explore what has become, something of a pro forma exercise in quote unquote land acknowledgements. But I think that there's been an ongoing conversation about how to adequately and not just adequately acknowledge and invite acknowledge the disruption that our partners sometimes call the advent of the unsettlers here. That was I'm kind of I'm trying to think on my feet here about how to include the kind of some of the best learning that's been going on here recently about relationships with the original inhabitants of our area that can most effectively honor and invite and in many ways restore and repair the damage that was done in that relationship, both with the people and with the land. Because I mean, as we've kind of worked with the local tribes, we've come to understand how profoundly it's not just the people, but when they come up here on the land, they talk about the land and the creatures here as their relations, and that so there's a sensitivity to that I would like to see somehow acknowledged in the Cobb Mountain Area Plan.
Good.
I'm being a little, not real focused at at this hour in time, but I'd like to kind of record that sentiment at least to begin.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Who else? Andrew and Shauna, in case you were not aware, we have, is it 7 or 8 federally recognized tribes? I forget.
7.
7. Okay. 7 federally recognized tribes within Lake County. And so each of them, almost each of them have recognized sovereign lands in trust. So they're all sovereign nations. And so we have the opportunity with this general plan update to recognize the relationship and the importance of cooperative and collaborative processes that I think were not really recognized as much in the earlier or in previous general plans and area plans. Additionally, we've had changes in the laws since those last visioning documents that stress and promote or require collaborative relationships with the recognition of the importance of preserving tribal cultural resources. And also what we're working through now in real time is still trying to figure out what that means. Robert Geary works for a number of the tribes, and he's been helping us to sort of understand the significance of viewsheds, sacred sites, and things like that we recognize and appreciate on sort of an intuitive level, but it's not as much a part of our actual structural culture as it is with these sovereign nations. And so it's been a fascinating process, but it is my goal and it is important to the community, as we've seen in surveys, to make sure that that respect and recognition of tribal assets, resources, history, and things like that become promoted as an asset to our county, rather than just as an afterthought. So that's bringing all you newbies to Lake County up to speed a little on that one. Who's next? Go ahead, Robert.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate the context.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Robert.
So like what's been said is really that's it. But just expanding, I'm big on expanding that just a little bit, from my own perspective. As a veteran coming to Lake County, I sat in with the Tribal Health Center for quite a while and sat in groups with veterans, but in that experience, that scene, and having done some vision quests, having done some cultural experiences, I've always felt like it was dancing around the truth of what was really happening within their culture, but from an outside perspective. And just recently through our firewood bank, and working with Tom Jordan and the executive director and linking up with some elders to try and share some of the wood with them for their ceremony, it was like something that it hit me pretty big, because until I really drove in and met this gentleman Bear and started to really see, some of the things and the effects, and like what Elliot was mentioning there of past doings, it didn't really affect me in that way until that moment. And so I guess I would just say that if I was coming in the way that the county would, it would be approaches everything. And it would really be not a them or us, more so just how can we approach it that establishes a collaborative effort that not only, because obviously both ends have taken cultural designations, or just, I guess, cultural ways from either end. And so we're in this together, and it's like, okay, but they're very sensitive. I noticed that, and they have every right to be. And how we approach it is not like we approached it in the past. And so more of that, I guess, and I don't really understand exactly 100% what that would be like, but I do, just not in words at the moment. But that would probably be how I would say that involvement would happen. And in that way, there's more of a sharing, to help us both unify and move forward together. So there's no more of the, from what I've seen, like there's no more poverty. Like it's incredible. I had no idea until I had experienced it.
Thank you. Go ahead, Chris.
So I think my response is the one that says, see question 18. And that's all the sort of the set of brainstorming that I did around cultural preservation, because I think these questions overlap in some important ways. One other thing that I want to draw out on this is that there is, in fact, a body of literature in the research world that is beginning to expand on indigenous, what might be called indigenous sciences, and incorporating traditional ecological knowledge into the work that we do in landscapes. And that's a body of research that I have pretty ready access to. So I guess my point is that this is something that is becoming pretty well established as a set of ideas within the research and academic world that we can begin to port over into our implementation of area plans. So there's a whole science around this of engaging with tribes and using, or not using, but collaborating to lift their participation. And we have to make sure that it's not extractive. That's why I sort of shied away from the using thing, that we're not just extracting knowledge out of the tribes or doing something that's performative with the tribal communities, but they are at the table and benefit from whatever work we're doing with them. It can't just be, them sitting at the table without some sort of active role. And when I mean active role, that their communities benefit from it, and that the people engaged are getting paid, and it is a real and not. I'm going to go back to the word performative because it's the easiest word that I've got at the tip of my tongue. Enterprise with the tribes. So if we put it in the area plan, we have to commit to doing something real about it, right? Not dancing around it.
That was kind of the message in one of our tribal consultation with Vice Chair Beltran from the Khoi tribe. It's that, we always start with these warm, fuzzy kumbaya things, but when it gets down to nitty gritty, everybody forgets. So I agree. All we can do is just ask that they hold us accountable to our words as we go forward. And let's make sure that this community visioning process isn't just a warm, fuzzy thing that goes away when we get to decision-making times.
Well, just to that point, which is why a monitoring plan and some real accountability for these local and general plans is critical. And I sent you a little set of ideas also via email a while back in response to Elliot that there needs to be something ongoing. We can't just let this plan sit on the shelf like the last one did since 1989. And I can't tell in the 1989 plan what worked and what didn't. I don't want to repeat that for us.
Yeah. Well, it didn't totally sit on the shelf. Let's just quickly touch base on the purpose. One of the benefits of having a local area plan and general plan updated and relevant is because every discretionary use permit that our planning division processes gets weighed and measured against the area plan to see if it's consistent. So it may feel like it sits on a shelf because you guys, unless you're going to planning commission meetings regularly, you don't hear it referred to very much. But I think this is a great opportunity for it to do what also is its secondary, its additional value, not secondary as less important, but it serves as a statement of the community priorities so that when we are going for grants that are publicly funded, we can identify and assure the grant folks that we're not just making this stuff up as we go along. We're applying for this specific grant because it meets this specific priority in the areas in the community's vision. And so yeah, it does remain an important document in community development and in government development. It's just you may not hear about it much. So.
Well, thank you for that. And I probably chose my words a little bit loosely. It maybe even concerns me more that it didn't sit on the shelf and that we're using something from 1989 to guide our decisions.
Yep.
All right. So there's
right there with you.
Not an easy way to wiggle out on that one for me.
I'm not even going to try. Yep. No. And yeah, it's way past time to do a check-in because our communities change. We're vibrant, so we change, especially when we get impacted by things like Valley Fire. So yeah, we definitely needed an update, a check-in sort of thing.
And I want to give Darlene put something in the chat about demonstrative cultural education center, and I think that may be in the set of ideas that I have in 18 as well. So
love that. What's a demonstrative cultural education center? Is that like an interactive, or is that different? Darlene, can you speak to it?
Go ahead, Darlene.
Oh, it took a while to unmute there. Demonstrative, kind of like Boggs Forest, but what I'm thinking is, like how they make Thule boats and using the Elliot may be able to speak to this a little more than I could, but where they demonstrate their culture, how they use natural resources, and how they do good fire, and like our controlled burns. But I think they do a little more. But I think Elliot can speak a little more to that. But in demonstrating to us how they've done things in the past, so that we can take what what we learn from them and actually put it to good use. So and giving us demonstrations of that. So that's kind of basically where I was coming from with that.
That's awesome.
Well, I think that's interesting, Darlene, because in a way you've kind of stepped into Chris's invitation into evolving this kind of understanding of partnership, in that we're really not looking for them to show us how they used to do things in the past. It's more, it is more a matter of, I'm thinking of one of our principal cultural educators in our watershed education program, said, listen, we realize we're not going back to the 19th century. It's more, we have to come together, and based on, we have resources in terms of our cultural heritage. We also are some of the best, frankly, some of the best ecological scientists in Lake County, our tribal members at this point. And we are looking to see, she said, you look around, the grizzly bear isn't here anymore, but you need to look around and say, in this situation, what did grizzly do? What was the function that grizzly performed? And we have to then take that up. What did beaver do? So there's a way in which we're looking to evolve partner, really we're in a whole new circumstance right now, but what we really want to do is acknowledge and value and make sure that we're able to support, help restore the resilience of our tribal partners here, because they're looking, they're not looking, it's like they realize, again, we are in a completely different circumstance. Which is,
but
yeah.
As a recovering history major, I would love to see both.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But whatever it is, it also has to include acorn bread, because I think it's just the coolest.
Yeah. Acorn bread and Thule structures. One of the things that this kind of opened up for me, Maria, was particularly since you kind of now have us working through the review of the old policies, there's a policy framework in there altogether. And I'm not exactly clear. It looks like we're doing two kind of parallel reviews. And I'm not sure how they mesh here, because clearly a lot of the issues that we're looking at here are also coming up in, for example, the cultural policy review of the previous, a plan. And we can say, okay, as you'll see when you look at the way in which we've commented on it, okay, cultural policies, big C there. Okay, how do we change this? And we're looking for a lot of the same kind of themes that we're coming up with here. So there's going to be,
there will be a need for synthesis.
There will be a need for synthesis. Excellent. Exactly. Indeed. And one of the things that, for example, that this particular moment of it raised for me is that the Pomo culture or the Habematol, the Kulanapo cultures and the Habamatolal cultures were heavily, in addition to being based in the local fauna, were heavily plant-based. And so all of the plants here have tremendous cultural significance. And as may know, these cultures were, they were major basket artisans. Hundreds of, close to 200 identified forms of baskets, all of which had a deep, one of the master basket weavers we've worked with said, to make a particular kind of basket meant you had to identify the plant, cultivate a particular kind of growth in that plant for many, many years, 5, 6, 7 years before that plant was then in a position to support the kind of relationship that you wanted to cultivate with it. So it's So then that kind of attention to detail and the details of the local ecology then become embedded in our policies towards our landscape. So there's a lot there. Let's just say that.
Totally. Yeah, that's good stuff. Go ahead. Let's see. Who's up? Shauna. You had a comment.
Sorry, I'm actually answering from Andrew's computer.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
So one idea that
Uh-oh, you're echoing somewhere. Is Andrew's computer in a different room? You're going to want to separate those.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay. So one idea that this group may already know about is that I think it's called Terra, TERA. Andrew and I have gotten involved with that group on our property. And it seems like such an incredible way of restoring our land, sharing it, and a way to, it just seems like a win-win-win all around. And one of the questions that we had been asked by the Terra group was if the indigenous tribes could come and forage from our property, whether it was acorns or I'm not sure what else is used. And that was really exciting to be able to say yes to that. And again, it just seems like such a great win all around to partner with the indigenous communities as we look to restore and rejuvenate and also protect the land from fire. So thought maybe that could be an idea here where more people know about that program and have the ability to get involved.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you. And in previous survey questions, also one thing that the community across the whole county was really interested in is supporting wilderness education, which to me is right along Tara's game. I'm mixing analogies, sorry, but anyway, it's like right up their alley. So, and Jessica, thanks for joining us now. We are on question 20 regarding amplifying the area's indigenous history, supporting traditions and collaborating with indigenous communities. Let's see, where am I?
That's perfect. That's where I'm set up to. I must have anticipated.
Woohoo! Well done.
We just got to go get a battery. Be right back.
Okay. Is there anything left on this one, or should we move on to 21? And also, just so you know, because if you started working on that Google Doc, we did note that there's kind of some overlap in your exercise. So it's kind of like looking at the old policy, you'll identify maybe ways that we're going to start integrating the data that we're finding. And I'm pointing at my other screen, like y'all can see that, so you can't. But it's ways that we can start taking the data that we're getting from the survey and our input and plugging it in there in those areas to update it and keep it relevant. Okay, anything else for question 20? Jessica, did you have anything on supporting indigenous history, traditions, and collaboration? Not, we're going to move on to 21. How should the county mitigate illegal dumping and other nuisance issues? Usually, or pretty commonly, standard across the board in all the planning areas was, one, make sure you're enforcing the regulations, using your code enforcement to hold people responsible for keeping their neighborhoods nice. And then secondarily, come alongside with grants or options that can help support our lower income or maybe our elderly communities to be able to comply. Let's go down to the written stuff as I wait for you guys to jump in with anything you might have to add. Yeah, so like no charge dump or free dump days. Follow-up reports of illegal dumping. Again, enforcement and support. Ban vaping devices. Not my department, but we could make it a priority from the community to express. Oh, good. I have hands up. Go ahead, Jessica. Then we'll do Robert and Chris.
So my question on this is inclusive of abatement issues as well?
Yep. Illegal dumping and other nuisance issues.
So other nuisance issues, abatements included.
Excessive outdoor storage. What else do we have? Yeah.
What about abandoned vehicles?
Yep. That's one.
Hazardous vegetation is one.
Hazardous vegetation is one that we're really looking to develop into a more robust program right now. That'll include sufficient staff resources, because there's only 60,000 county parcels to sort of look at. But. What else? Oh, are you done, Jessica? We'll move on to Robert. Okay, go ahead, Robert.
I just have to say, if like anytime I've ever seen where that type of thing is happening, I think you're right. It's probably just maybe a lack of funds, or just a lack of resources to get it to there, or the maybe not close enough to an establishment. Like if there's, I'm watching my words. So I guess I just mean, like, if someone were to litter and there's a can 20 feet, it probably wouldn't happen if it was within 5 or 10 feet within sight distance. So I guess the more available that it would be, the better, and probably could channel that amount of money that goes into enforcing it more so to creating, like you said, days where there's free drop-off days, or if there's establishments that do it, that they could receive a grant to offer those types of days. So yeah, right track on that.
Just at the last LAPAC, we covered this question from Shoreline, and they were saying kind of similar to what you might be saying, is establishing like mini transfer station areas in communities that would then get picked up. So people wouldn't have to drive all the way to the dump, because some people don't drive. Is that kind of where you're going?
It's totally where I was thinking. I guess I'm in Lakeport, and I'm at a gas station or something. There's like trash halfway in between the parking lot. But if there's a trash basket that's like within 5 extra feet, somebody's going to make the effort. I mean, sometimes it just happens. But I guess I just mean, yes, the closer it can become and the more accessible or reachable, if it's an income or an amount that they can't pay type of thing. So to be able to fund certain days like that. So yeah, absolutely.
Right. I'm totally trying not to think of when my boys would throw their socks next to the dirty clothes hamper.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Chris. And put your hand down when you're done so that I can remember where we are in the order. Thanks, everybody. Go ahead, Chris.
Mine's down. This is somewhat silly, but you said, and this isn't to correct you. It's just a matter of where we put our priorities. You said enforcement and support. I hope that we go with support and enforcement.
Okay.
Right. We put our efforts into, especially as these communities age, and some of this work becomes more difficult, especially with vegetation abatement, that we take a support and enforcement rather than an enforcement and support.
Yeah, duly noted. Yeah, I'd actually like them to go together so that we can have these funding sources or these grant programs available, so that when we do our outreach, when we're trying to encourage self-abatement, is how we always start with code enforcement. And at that point, have something ready to say, okay, this is what you need to do. Here's some resources to help you get it done, kind of hand in hand.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. And sort of 2 other items. I will tell you that at the Cobb Area Council and just when I'm talking to community members, is that here in this area with sort of the hyper awareness of fire, the number of unoccupied lots that we have, it's the vegetation abatement stuff that comes up like over and over and over again. And I think it probably dovetails with a lot of the other stuff that we've talked about in terms of resource management and all of that. So I think we can sort of weave these things together in the area plan so that it's not, just about enforcement, but also how vegetation abatement takes care of our resources and our environment, and see how we sort of interlink all these things. Last thing I want to say is what Robert was pointing to and what you mentioned about the intermediate stations for disposal of certain things. And some of the that's a potentially an opportunity for creating small scale neighborhood oriented businesses that that can help with these things. And so again, linking the idea of how do we do abatement and creating business opportunities in neighborhoods that are small scale, light industrial, and don't interfere, kind of fit with the mixed use philosophy that we've been talking about. And it doesn't just all fall necessarily on the county to do, that there's essentially work and jobs created out of it.
Really. And as a possibility, before we go back to Jessica, who has her hand up, that just sparks like the work that's going on to identify good locations for biomass projects too, because a lot of this biomass, that we have is green waste, and has veg. And so it sure would be nice if there was a local program or a local business, Robert, that, that was servicing the needs of getting this stuff off of our properties and getting it to where it needs to go.
Well, some of the grants that we may go after as the county, or as a municipal advisory board, or as a nonprofit in the area, might be to help support and do technical assistance to get these businesses off the ground.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Go ahead, Jessica.
I just wanted to let you know, I once again cannot lower my hand, nor can I use the chat.
I think it's your computer. You're just saying that.
I do meetings online all the time.
All right. Oh, it just went down. It went down. So how about this?
Okay.
Everybody but Jessica, raise your hand if you need to talk. Jessica, you wave and we'll put you in line.
Flag everyone down.
Good.
Okay. Sounds good.
Right. Go ahead, Elliot.
I just wanted to stick a quick pin in. Very, very happy to hear of your plans to beef up the hazardous vegetation abatement program. I would like to explore ways to kind of bake that into our new Cobb area CWPP. Make sure that we have some robust connectivity there. Again, a little to the left of what we're doing right now, but please let's make sure we make that connection as we go forward.
Yeah. Good idea. I'm just writing that down for future reference in the Cobb area CWPP. Got it. Okay. Anything else on illegal dumping and other nuisance issues? If not, we're moving on to healthy food. How should the county ensure access to healthy food? So you got the multiple choice questions in front of you. And I love it. Everybody wants more local food access. Farmers markets, urban farming, community gardening. Good. Let's see what else. Who's Robert? Go ahead.
Just, I think, quick one on this one for me. Just more community garden / market opportunities. So I know Elliot's asked about it down in his area, and I think that's part of the small town feel up here. And it's kind of a backwards, but it's still in the ballpark if I could. But I've been trying to implement a food waste pickup, because waste is only waste if we waste it. And so I was like, hey, let's get that food.
That was deep. Yeah.
Get that composting going and get more education in that, and growing more local food. So anyway.
So are you talking about local food waste that's actually like not sharing it with other people to eat, but actually like disposing of it safely in the environment, or what kind of food waste?
Great question. In a nutshell, like we do that. I know a lot of people do that on a small level, but picture weekly pickups. I understand that right now South Lake or CNS does offer that in certain areas, but when we look at the green can, the brown can, and the blue can, food waste is not allowed in the brown can. It creates methane, in fact.
Yeah.
And the green can, it's not allowed. So there's like this gray area, and I'm like, R2 can do that. But the other part of it is that, how there's been talks about the state implementing things where there's a mandatory to where people aren't allowed to throw food into the landfill.
Yeah, SB 1383, but we're too small a jurisdiction for that. We've been exempt so far.
As long as people know that it's like a thing and it's kind of important, I just feel like education, and maybe if I've been looking into, Calorie Cycle. The only thing is I'm personally not a nonprofit because I'm a veteran-owned company. And so it's tough for us to get a grant, but that's good, weekly pickups. And so we bring in the food, we mix it in with the log wood chips that don't really have nitrogen. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. Thank you for the heart.
Neato. All right. What else? Elliot's gesticulating, but that doesn't count. Only Jessica gets to gesticulate. So we're moving on. All right. Question 23. How should the county ensure access to quality health care? I know, big question. And we're always talking about attracting more medical professionals and expanding access to expanding facilities. Go ahead, Chris. Start us off.
Yeah, I think I have to go look and see if I actually answered this. I'm working with an MD as we speak. Yeah. So there's some ideas right there. In terms of reducing red tape and tax incentives, and really focusing on community health centers that are located in neighborhoods rather than people having to travel, 30 or 40 miles to get their basic health care. Anyway, we're kind of becoming aware of some of these red tape areas and opportunities that are there, because we just spun up or in the process of spinning up a nonprofit here on Cobb, like I said, working with an MD to do this, to begin to address healthcare needs here. We just got our federal designation letter, and it's probably a 2 or 3 year, maybe 4 year process. Dr. Sophie's in Washington State right now, doing tons of C-sections so that she's qualified to continue to do them. But as a family med doctor, anyway, if we link all this stuff together, it's about people being able to access their needs and get their needs taken care of where they live, and not having to get into a car, spew carbon everywhere, and visit monopolistic, revenue-oriented healthcare systems instead of, in some ways, I would love to go back to, Quinn Medicine Woman in their covered wagon visiting house to house. But of course, I'm nostalgic. But we may end up in those places given where, carbon's going to just become more expensive in the next 50 years. So having to drive to a big center in Clear Lake isn't tenable for Cobb residents necessarily.
Good. Who else? Go ahead, Elliot.
Okay, this is yet another opportunity to highlight what I hope we can include as a principal orientation from the Cobb Mountain Area Plan is when we talk about health, recognizing that I'm not sure where this falls in the policy framework. There used to be, I haven't heard of it recently, a movement in California called HIAP, Health in All Policies, where they really want to make something similar to the remarkable work in California around CEQA, where in all policies we look at the environmental impact. There's been this HIAP movement to really make sure that all policies take into account the health and wellness effects of any activity being proposed, and all of this also should highlight again something that I would like to make sure is baked into our Cobb area plan is that everything is connected. That there really is a kind of undisentangleable connectivity between just to take the one we were just talking about, food policy is deeply connected and waste policy. These are things that are profoundly connected to the wellness of our community. And so I'd like to see as is our relationships with our neighbors. So again, just to make sure that we emphasize if we're talking about health and wellness, the interconnectivity with all other policies. Thank you.
Hey, just to benefit, look, hold on, Jessica, we've got Andrew and Shauna who are kind of new to the Cobb community. Can you let them know where they can find that area plan that you were working on? Because I really think it highlights the connectivity of the Cobb community. It would be helpful for them to have access to that.
The easiest place to get access to it, given I'm afraid the Cobb Area Council website is a little has got some issues at the moment. The way to access this plan is at the sscra.org website, where you'll see it under our projects. And Andrew or Sean, if you want to send me an email address, I'd be delighted to send you a direct link to it as well. If you want to put that in the chat, I can send that to you.
Yeah, that would just be an additional opportunity for context, to just bring people up to speed for the sort of that sustainability, circular economy, circular life stuff that really was a theme in Cobb as they kind of worked towards recovery after Valley Fire. Like, how can we recover better? I'm
going to put the web link in the chat and
awesome.
Yeah, I got to it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Excellent. Okay. Oh, I think I just went ahead to the other question. Is there anything left on healthcare? Oh, Jessica, go ahead.
I have to do the physical raising of the hand. I love what's being said about the whole connectivity of things. Looking at short-term and long-term solutions for that. Perhaps now it's a matter of looking at mobile types of programs where they'll go out to more rural communities, and then long-term looking at something actually more site-based, a center of sorts that would be available to the community. The other thing I was thinking about, it's health related, but looking at the needs for veterinary service care as well. healthcare in general, it's been proven through research, having animals around you is a huge part of, help with mental health issues and such. And it's a bit of a drive, and the cost that's there. There are mobile vets that exist. They're usually for larger ag. And oftentimes they'll service you and your smaller pets if you already utilize them, but maybe looking at something along those lines as well. And then they do have the mobile vet clinics and things like that, Rainbow Ag or whatnot. Why can't we get one up here once in a while? That type of a thing. And then I know that Tribal Health has a mobile van that they use and utilize. So looking at programs that can offer something like that for human health as a more short-term type of a thing, but then longer term looking at actually trying to find and establish some sort of a clinic-based facility.
Good. I don't see any other hands raised, so I'm moving to how should the county ensure that residents have access to vital communication services? Updating my notes. All right, broadband. Yeah, that's not really news to anybody. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, we've got, and it looks like Andrew's got his hand raised as well, but we've been talking about the need for broadband and better sort of wired capacity here in Cobb for a while, because the terrain here is such that sometimes radio frequency stuff doesn't work as well. But that is the solution, that broadband solution, what's the name of the company?
Lake County Broadband.
Lake County Broadband.
Yeah, like that they offer. And they've got some pretty good technology. But we encountered some community resistance to that when we attempted to go that particular route. So,
really? Oh.
Yeah. I mean, Elliot and I can maybe give you a back channel on that. But so I'll stop there. This seems like a no-brainer. More broadband.
Yeah. Good. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say on the next wave, I mean, wired's no longer needed. I mean, our community is kind of primed for Starlink. Starlinks can be used anywhere. I don't know what they do with communities, but I wonder if they do have community programs where something can be subsidized. It might be slightly more expensive, which might be a blocker, but their costs are constantly coming down, and you don't need wires, and you don't need location, and it doesn't really matter where you are. And there was a push countrywide to do a bunch of rolling out of fiber into really rural areas, and they wasted billions of dollars, and all you really need is a $100 satellite and a connection to Starlink, and Northern California is very much in the coverage area.
Excellent. Go ahead. Let's see. Elliot and then Jessica.
I just wanted to mention the importance and significance of multiple redundant communications channels. And one example, of course, up here is our Cobb Area Network, which is a low-powered handheld radio network that's kind of linked. That we have basically divided the Cobb Mountain area into, I don't know how many, 6 or 7 zones, each of which is can communicate internally via literally $10 walkie-talkies. And within each of those zones, there is also somebody who has what's called a GMRS or general, I forget what the M is for, radio service. It's a little more power. Those are 5-watt radios that can actually reach around the bend a little bit and get between. And we also have a handful of ham operators as well up here. So it's we practice every Wednesday night for about 20 minutes at 6:30, just going through protocols. And it has already been proven to be a useful, again, additional channel when we've had a couple of fire incidents up here. So I would like to, have in our area plan and express support for, multiple channels, including local, FRS, Family Radio Service Networks.
Good. Jessica, did you have your hand? No, we did. Yeah, your turn, right? And then we'll go to Darlene.
So I wanted to follow up with what Elliot was saying. The redundancies, it's essential up here. As we found out through multiple incidents in the past, we have to have redundancies. If we don't, then we're reliant on one particular method, and there have been times when that fails. So it's a safety, health and safety issue, and we need to make sure that those redundancies are offered. So, for instance, looking at connectivity for broadband, currently, because of our geographic nature up here, it can be challenging and difficult for certain people in certain pockets and areas where, they're not able to receive service. Working with companies to, for instance, like County Broadband, as well as Valley Internet, which I actually utilize, to have more repeaters out there. And typically they don't move forward with having any sort of repeaters until they have enough of a population in an area that has a need for that. And then that, allows for them to be able to move forward with putting in new infrastructure in that area. Looking at potentially if there are any other ways to help out with that cost and the cost reductions so that it can be put in place without, having to rely on the population need first for them to be able to move forward with something like that. The other consideration and issue is our phone service. There are multiple people up here that still have landlines. They keep landlines because of during fire season. It's a redundancy. It's an essential one. We've lost our towers up here before during incidents, and the landlines worked. So what is this situation right now with AT&T, and they're phasing themselves out? I'm curious about, where that's at this point in time. And then how do we look at redundancies for actual phone service? Because, the technology for more cellular repeater towers, we're not seeing that. And it's the same thing as with internet. They're not going to put up any more repeaters until it is financially feasible for them to do so. And we just don't have that population up here. But it's a safety issue. So, how do we mitigate that?
I know you're not asking me like I'm supposed to have an answer, but
that's a general question. But actually, do you know where AT&T is at with their phasing out plan?
No, but the board approved its letter of opposition, which to me means that if they needed local jurisdiction support and didn't get it, then they're just going to go the next level higher till they can work around us. I think it's just inevitable. Yeah, that seems to be what the communication utilities do.
Well, and then my dealings and experience with AT&T in general, especially during fire recovery, they're just going to do what they're going to do. Yeah, regardless. And it doesn't matter about, safety or whatnot. So that's where I am thinking, we need those redundancies. We need those for internet connectivity, and we need them for phone service. And how do we go about ensuring that we have those redundancies? It is a huge, huge piece for many people. Every time I talk to anyone about safety in this area and the ability to communicate, those topics come up every single time.
Totally. Yeah. Thank you. Go ahead, Darlene.
Yeah, I'd like to mirror what Jessica just shared, that redundancy is necessary. I come from the telecommunications industry. My dad was the...
We just lost you.
Oh, can you hear
there
me
you
now?
are. Now you're back. Yep.
Okay.
Your dad was in
All
the industry.
Yeah,
What was it saying?
he's the Bay Area, well, retired now, but the Bay Area guru that everyone in the United States calls for problems with telecommunications. Sorry, the radio's going off here. Speaking of the GMRS network. But in any case, I grew up in the industry, and it is a necessary, absolutely necessary for redundancies, more than one. If we can have at least one redundancy, that would be great. But, you know, Jessica is absolutely right. You know, for not only public safety, but many reasons. Of course, the geography here, like it's been mentioned, for cellular and broadband, especially cellular, is more terrain dependent. You know, we lost towers up at our St. Helena South site. Of course, that burned down in the Valley Fire. That was one that my dad built out back in the early 80s. I think it's burned down twice. But in any case, I've got quite an extensive knowledge about everything, and I just want to, you know, totally agree with the redundancy. We've actually in the industry over the years, especially with cellular and that sort of thing. But the microwave communications, we've got 2 redundancies on each of our sites to get, you know, just to kind of add to that. I think everyone pretty much touched on the basics, but just wanted to give that input there.
Good. Thank you, Darlene. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, just one quick note on that too. So it'd be nice if there was, you know, just different options. I think I had heard before and some conversation about it. I know the satellite internet is definitely the hype in the last 6 months. I wasn't a giant fan of seeing the lights in the sky, but I think they've gone into orbit. So, you know, it's okay. But as I'm hearing redundancy and just different opportunities to create different options for folks. You know, I'm looking at it, just a couple of notes. TP-Link's got some amazing link type equipment out there. There's a point-to-point that goes up to 18 miles, and it's like $150. If we did kind of similar like we did our radio systems around here, which seems to work, easily could throw a point-to-point and get things set up and create more of a mesh system that people could use. You just call it Cobb Web, and it's done. And it's just one more option that we would be able to use up here. So
what I'm good. Thank you. So what I'm seeing is not only is redundancy important, but also supporting emerging technologies as we continue to advance. Because I think towards the end of the lifespan of this local area plan, our world probably could look fairly different from now.
Yeah, there's really no reason why anyone shouldn't have the lights turned on in their house at this point. I mean, it's a must.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Vital communication. Anything else? Going to vital community resources. So how can the county ensure that residents have vital community resources and services? So this includes like infrastructure, fire districts, like they say, governmental services and civic services. Elliot, lead us off.
Okay, I'm going to get on my soapbox here and really just talk about the necessity to really build self-reliant capacity at the area plan scale altogether. I think that there are, as you know, I mean, we've been active in this. We got our butts kicked by the Valley Fire. And so for the last 9 years, we have been building slowly, it really is a network of local community capacity and services starting with the Cobb Area Council and its committees, and then radio network and the local nonprofits and the fire plans and the Firewise communities, our local businesses, et cetera. Looking at the long-term, sustainability of running that kind of operation, I would like to explore, and again, this was something that came up in the Cobb strategy, the feasibility of a local community services district, or another way that could potentially package this as, again, I think I may have mentioned that Terry told me about these new state designed climate adaptation districts. I think that it's inevitable that we are going to need to find some ways to support that functioning, and that it's unrealistic to expect the county to be able to. I know at this point, Maria, you're probably as well educated as anybody in the county, government. But to hear you say what a revelation it's been to kind of get down to this, real granular level where the level of local knowledge becomes critical in effectiveness. So I would really like to find a way in our area plan to advance the exploration of a local services district that can be self-financing.
What was that? A state designed what kind of district that you mentioned? I wanted to get that in there.
I think it was some kind of, I don't know if it was climate adaptation district or climate something district. Terry will know about it.
Okay.
But it is, or I can send you some info. I've got it in my files here somewhere. But again, frankly, we've already had, this will be, since can't be off the record since it's being recorded, but we do, we already have local service districts here. We have our water districts. We have the South Lake County Fire Protection Districts. There are the school districts. I think the one that's most local right now is our water district. And perhaps, there's a way to, if it proves difficult to create a whole new district. And I know that there are issues this would have to go through the local area formation committee, whatever LAFCO is the acronym for, to establish. But I really feel that as this process of devolving responsibility for local development and local development altogether and governance even, we need to explore, well, what are the scale appropriate mechanisms that we can create to, and it's going to require resources to do that. Done
Thank
for
you.
now.
All right. Chris had his hand up, and then we'll go to Jessica because she's waving.
Yeah, I have to echo everything that Elliot said and really put an emphasis on the need to find creative ways to fund and resource these types of things. And I think that's really what Elliot in some ways fundamentally is pointing to, because the county sometimes isn't or doesn't have the capacity to do that just through property taxes. So yes, and all of the above to that, and then also really underlining the one aspect of that is the community involvement and the sort of democratic nature of those local boards that are involved with these community service districts, like the water board. I can talk to people in my community that are on that board and walk down to my neighbor. Right. And that's the sort of thing that creates a sense of trust in our institutions as well.
Good. Yeah, Jessica.
Following up on what Elliot was talking about. So community services district, is that the phrase that we would use in order for potential future funding? Or I'm just curious as far as, whatever that might be that would open doors for funding later on. Because I mean, that's exactly, I'm right with you. That's right on, as far as it goes. And one of the interesting things about Cobb area is historically the water district was that community services all encompassed place for everything else in the area for years. And now that we've obviously grown more, and we have the district consolidation for the water departments and such. Now we have Cobb Area Council, looking at establishing those services to work hand in hand with what we already do have here established. But obviously, as we continue to grow, looking at ways of creating those things so that we can look toward potential funding to help us out in the area as well. But yeah, I mean, I completely agree as far as that goes. And, we have a park in plan now for up here. Are there things having to do with the park that we could look at specific services that would benefit for the community best and utilizing that space in order to do something along those lines as well? Keeping that continually thinking forward in the area plan with what we have, what's coming, shorter term, proposing longer term, and then, integrating all of that. I think the integration part is the big piece for me. And especially when it comes to funding and utilization of space and services that already exist and integrating that with anything forward. I hope that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Working with more of a holistic plan involving a lot of different areas of the community to kind of leverage it off of each other. That's what I'm hearing. Yeah. Go ahead, Chris, and then Elliot.
So I'm glad, Jessica, that you mentioned the park that is in that's on its way here. At sort of the Cobb Pizza conversations, local restaurant conversations with Jessica Peiska, was that, we might be able to utilize that building that's sitting there where the park will be. But I think there was a determination that it's not really safe for habitation. But the point being that we probably need to begin to look towards a service center here of some sort that might be able to house the Cobb Area Council, and also some of the other social services that might be required for especially an aging population, because the population here in Cobb is not going to get younger, I don't think. I don't see a big influx of youth in this area necessarily, unless something happens in the cities and there's like major rural, reinvestment. But at any rate, that's a prime site for development of additional infrastructure to support community services.
The new park site, you mean?
Mm-hmm. And potentially house the Cobb Area Council. And that's probably true of all the municipal area councils, that they're looking for a place to live.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility to do something like Middletown, where they have a library senior center, and having an all-in-one type of a facility like that?
That would be ideal, right? We'd have to find the money for it. But
yeah, that's what they're looking at for the different, working on some grants for creating not just local community resiliency centers that can be used as community gathering locations and like outside emergency uses, but also establishing like hubs that can work as distribution centers to support the local CRCs as needed too. Terry's working on that too. Okay. What else? Oh, Elliot, go ahead.
Yeah, just this question about community services district. That's just one thought we had, Jessica. Another one is, and again, I'm not an expert in this, but there are people who know more about it. Community Development Corporation. Whether you have a government, and I think that what we're looking to do is really to put together an ecosystem. Right now, we've got the Cobb Area Council, which is kind of a quasi-government. We've got the SSCRA, which is a 501c3 nonprofit community development. I think if we could get a development corporation that could access, commercial investment, that would be another piece of the puzzle. So I think that there are a bunch of different, elements to that. But I just wanted to take this opportunity, Chris, because we raised this issue about our demographic projections, and that's something that I don't remember seeing in any of the work that we're doing here, even though, frankly, as we know, the current projections are probably less trustable than at many times in the past. But I always know that the Census Bureau has its own projections, and the Department of Finance has its own projections that they use for, the development of, school facilities, in terms of they need to know, how many classrooms are they going to need 5 years from now. So, and I know, Chris, maybe you could speak a little more directly to that, and just what's the best information that we have out there so far.
Well, that is an area of interest of mine, are the data that we have to support these sort of decisions. And I was looking at the 1989 plan and somewhat mouth agape at the sort of wild assumptions that they had about growth. And if, we'd have like 12 or 15,000 people living in Cobb right now if those growth projections were accurate, and they were flat wrong. So we need to be, I think, we need to be careful, and we need to be realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
But what are the? Is there at least a? How do we work with whatever the assumptions are that we have, and how do we continually make sure that we can adjust them as the future unfolds?
I mean, one thing potentially is to have like a couple of scenarios, and this gets back to the need for a monitoring plan, so that if things begin to go off rail, in terms of what were our assumptions, and we're seeing something else actually develop in reality, we need to be able to adjust this plan, rapidly. And that was sort of my point about it. I said it sat on the shelf since 1989. It just wasn't responding to changing conditions on the ground about, massive automation up at Calpine that didn't result in a massive influx of new employees to work up there, even though they were doing there's a whole set of issues around that. But I do think that the census and the American Community Survey and some of those data can provide us with something, but we also need a way to revisit this with some level of regularity, even though it's out to 2050. A monitoring plan for the local area plans and the general plan.
And I will presume to kind of jump in and augment that, Maria. If we again look back at that Cobb strategy, we identified, I don't know off the top of my head, probably 30 or 40 specific data points that we felt would be critical for us to be able to do that kind of monitoring. Much of which is, it's challenging to, as you know, to get data at small scales, because the people that gather data, like to look at big pictures, and there's also issues about aggregation and identifiability of individuals. But we did say that there is this whole kind of cohort of data points that will be necessary to really make sure that we are able to to keep track of things. And this certainly is going to be critical for the next item on our agenda, which is business development, because if we're asking people to do investments based on projected, customer base and et cetera. It'd be good to at least have, begin to build a, build the graph, the trend graphs.
So what I got from that one was importance noted of data points, needed data points to monitor relevance of area plan. Is that correct? Yeah. About right?
Good.
Can you
what a great summary.
Can you send those data, that list again, please? If you have it.
Yeah, well,
Good.
it's in the strategy each of those.
Oh, that's right.
Each of those 7 capitals has what we know and what we'd like to know. There's a what we'd like to know section in each of those 7 capital sections, which outlines the data that we'd like to have.
All right, so let's add that as a priority. Are they data points that we're already tracking?
No, that's the point. I mean, this is let me see if my computer just crashed.
Is it stuff that county government would have to track? And we'll get to Robert in just a second. But
some things we have. I mean, and that's what the plan points to, or what we know, and what we're able to track with current data that's out there in some way, shape, or form, and then what's completely lacking that we would love a way to monitor. And I think there's some question: does it need to be the county, or can it be the municipal advisory councils that?
Good. I like that better.
The monitoring process, because again, and I just think an informed local community is better able to adapt to the sort of rapid changes we're going to have to make over the next 20, 25 years.
For example,
go ahead.
I just pulled up the plan. Here's additional data we would like to have in our natural capital issue is which was not easy for us to get, but I'm sure the county has acres under timber management or forest management plans.
That's a state thing. So I could give you acreage of parcels that are under TPZ, but as far as whether or not they have active plans, don't know. Yeah.
We'd like, that would be important for us to know.
Yeah, we could do that.
So, what's the extent of invasive species penetration? For example, the spread.
Definitely not a me thing. Yeah, who would that be?
It's not there. Frankly, some of the new LiDAR data would be able to give us, some of that information. Some of it we're hoping to get through ground truthing during the development of the CWPP. But
what about the resource conservation districts? Do you think they might have that?
Nope.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
I mean, anecdotally, we can tell that the broom is continuing to spread. Well, that's another one.
Totally.
Extensive, extent of hazardous brush accumulation. Where is it? How's it? Is it going up? Is it going down?
How about a priority of assist the? Let's see. So assist the local municipal advisory. I can't spell anymore. Advisory council to develop assist the local municipal advisory council to gather needed data points. Because to assist you to develop a process just sounds like so government-y that it's never going to happen. But to gather needed data points to monitor relevance of area plan, because that's way it's a y'all thing, but we're happy to help. So
yeah, absolutely.
I can sleep at night with that one.
So it seems like a no-brainer, but advisory councils can't advise without data.
Yeah, no, that's good.
So there were 11 data points we wanted in the natural capital. In the built capital, here's a couple that we'd really like to have more refined data on the housing inventory.
Give me the name of the title of that document, because we're one minute over. We got to get to Robert, but I want to capture that. So what? Tell me that name of that thingy again.
That's the Cobb Area Strategy document that I sent you again.
Yeah, it's just too close to 5. I can't remember the titles of these things anymore.
It's the Cobb Mountain. It's a long title. It's the Cobb Mountain Regeneration After Catastrophic Wildfire. It's Community Resilience and Development Strategy. Cobb Mountain Strategy. Just call it the Cobb Mountain Strategy.
Okay. I got Cobb Mountain Regeneration Area Strategy. Pretty close. All right. Yeah. Go ahead, Robert. You're going to close this out for today, and then we'll discuss where we're going from here.
This is actually a little bit more forward than this question. I just wanted to directly speak with you for just a moment. And I just wanted to say thanks for listening to everything that we have discussed. And you make us feel like we're the only LAPAC that you talk to. You give it time and the consideration.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I don't even understand it. It's humbling. So just thank you again.
Thank you. Yeah, don't look at my eye bags. No, this is actually just such a unique experience. I think y'all are missing out that you don't just get to hang out with me all day and listen to what all these different LAPAC communities think. Because it's so awesome to hear people talk about what they really love and what they think is important and how they want to keep their community strong. And it's just, yeah, thank you. I appreciate your comments. That's nice.
My question for you, Maria, is now that you're having this experience, how do you share that out to your staff and the board and all the communities that you're working with so that it doesn't just live in your head?
Right? I'll have to figure that out. I have not had much time to talk to my staff in the last few days. But
right.
But yeah, I think that it'll definitely help inform staff. Well, it's going to be great stuff that we're capturing for updates for the local area plan. I just really want to make sure that we don't lose everybody when it comes around January, when we actually have drafts, because that's when I'm going to need everybody to come back and say, no, we missed this, or that's not, let's get this right. So, and until then, I'm just going to have endless stories to tell at cocktail parties, about, Cobb Mountain does this, or, shoreline communities, they tried this, but it didn't really work, or, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So.
Well, speaking of losing it, I'd like, just so you know, Chris, you know this, but we did lose a major significant member of our Cobb community today. John Carlisi passed away this morning. And,
yes.
It was,
wow.
No.
Yeah, it was not totally unexpected. He's been in the hospital for a week. He's had trouble for the last couple of months, but we, as his wife told us this morning, he's in heaven tonight. So
sorry to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah. So keep him in your heart and your prayers. He was we talked to him for us at SFCRA. He was one of our angels. So
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for letting us know, Elliot.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about next steps, Cobb. Where are we? Wednesday. We have another virtual meeting where we're going to pick up and hopefully finish the second survey. That is on Friday at 11, virtual. So let me know if you haven't received that link. Send me an email. And when's our in-person one?
14th.
Next week, 14th. Thank you. Yeah, sure is. Oh, at Mandala Springs. That'll be cool. Yeah. 2:00. Okay, so by Friday, what I'd like us to be ready to do is please have spent some time thinking about those different line items in the current policy and objective document. What we're going to start doing as soon as we're done with the second survey results. So at our next meeting, I know we're going to finish this stuff, and we're going to move into the executive summary area. I think it's called. It's different in every single planning area or every area plan, but every area plan starts with a list of general assumptions, baseline things that they use. And so we're going to go through that together as a group. And then we're going to have to figure out how we're going to get through all the active policies, because there were a whole lot more than I thought there were going to be. And if it's taken us this long to get through the survey, we're going to have to figure out some form of speedier communication. So what I was thinking is in the active policies document, it has the columns for keep it as is, discard it, or change it. So I think we're just going to take the information that's keep as is or discard. We're just going to set that aside and we're going to focus on the stuff for changing. Because those are the things that are already in the area plan that we need to update. So we need to make sure that we've got the information for that to do that correctly. That's my thought. Do you guys have any other ideas? Sound good? Are you waving to say bye, or you're like, yeah, that's good. Okay.
I do have a question. So as I've been going through it and noting the keep, discard, change, update, there are a few of these that I really don't understand what they are. And part of it is because it's pretty archaic terminology or wording for, what it is. So I'm not even sure how to change or update, or maybe it's just not relevant at all. So I have little question marks.
Question mark. Yeah, perfect.
I've got the question marks in there as well.
So, excellent. Yeah. Well done.
Okay, is that going to be one of those things as we're going through it? We can just briefly just discuss what that is, what it may have been, and whether or not it's still relevant today. Okay.
Yeah. That'll count as a C.
Just to say, there's going to be as much material, at least coming out of me, on this as there was on the survey. It's like we can look at it from this other perspective. And it stimulated a bunch of that's why I said we'll
also have a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
I think we'll hit a number of them where we're like, yeah, we talked about that in the survey. We captured that already. So it won't have to be line by line, but we'll brace ourselves, Elliot, for all the good stuff you got coming. Go ahead, Jessica.
So another question I had, are there reasons why some of them are brief? Are they supposed to be more overarching or broad than what they are? I mean, some of these look like, yeah, we need to keep them, but we could combine them too, so that it's not separate for those. If it's worded in such a way, then it would make sense to have it combined.
I think we're going to naturally combine things that are related as we just do wordsmithing on the document. So
okay.
Yeah, don't worry. You don't have to take it down to the wordsmith level.
Well, that's what I do, though. I'm the narrative one that wants to write all of the times.
Well, you go right ahead and then just scan it and send it to me. That's fine.
No. I'm not comfortable there yet. Okay. I'm not until I'm paid.
Okay. No, so it's fine. We do know that a lot of the structure itself in some of these area plans are archaic. So we'll take a look at that when we're updating. Okay, so perfect. That it's usable in a consumable document.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? Are we good? All right. Awesome. Thanks so much for giving me 90 minutes of your day. This is good work. We'll see you on whatever day I said, Friday. Cool.
Friday.
Thanks, everybody.